let's get into this. It has been so cool meeting you. This is about the third time we've chatted, and it's just been so great. You just bring so much good energy. So I'm really looking forward to this podcast episode. For those people out there, the listeners, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be here. So I'm Mel Fox Dhar. I am a career coach who specializes in career transitions for people in big tech. My shtick is to help people find roles that are aligned and get their life and their career moving in the same direction. That is the thing that brings me the most joy.
Oh, yes, I love that. And that is so needed right now. And we'll get into that. But first of all, let's travel back in time to young you. You're in high school, college, whatever it is. What was that first job where you ever got money? It's literally my favorite question of the podcast.
Oh, I love this question. It's not one I often talk about. My first job was flipping apartments. My mother looked after an apartment building and somebody needed to clean the apartments when somebody moved out. And my sister and I did that. So I was 14. This was definitely like cash slid across desks vibes. And we would spend our Saturdays and Sundays scrubbing apartments. The smell of bleach is like forever in my brain because, oh man, we took that like, let's clean this all out thing very seriously. I don't think anything survived my sister and I cleaning these flats.
I have literally never heard that as a first job before. So that is very cool. All right. So your mom flipped apartments or she was selling them? Like, did you stage them, put furniture, like all of that stuff?
Oh, no, this wasn't for sale. This was for rental. So this was for rental. Sorry if I didn't make that clear. So she managed an apartment building, and part of that job was to make sure that the apartments were ready for other people to move in.
Got it. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
I could have used you in a couple rentals for sure. Like I moved in and was like, what on earth? Like, how can you give your house to someone looking like this? I mean, yeah. Okay. So 100%. That is a needed job. All right. So, and what you remember about that is the smell of bleach.
The smell of bleach. Absolutely. And now this is the thing, like you just never forget. If you want your house to look cleaner, wipe off the speckles from anything chrome. So like, like the fixtures or anything like that, if you just wipe off the splashes, everything looks 100% cleaner because that's the fine detail. And so it's stuff like this that makes you slightly a crazy person later in life because you can't not see it, right? Mm-hmm. So I cannot not see if something isn't straightened or clean or, kind of appropriately wiped down. I have laser eye beams to this day. And this was a long time ago.
Okay, don't look at my windows.
No judgment. There's no judgment that comes with it, I promise. But it just is like my brain can't not see it.
Yes, I totally get that. Okay, so from there, you're 14. How long did you do that? And do you have any, besides looking and having laser vision with any clean, did you learn something? Did you interact with any people? Tell us more about that.
All the customer service jobs that were like customer facing came later. But what I learned about this was just the independence that comes with having your own money. And that was a lesson I learned at 14, my first job at 6. So I was there. We did that probably for a year. When I was 16, my next job was coaching 4-year-olds in gymnastics as like an after school situation. And that was a ton of fun. And there I had to talk to parents. And talking to parents that are not yours when you are 16 is a very different experience. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
But it definitely set me down this path of with money comes independence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I learned very similar. I loved it. I was also 14 and I was addicted to the independence for sure. All right. So gymnastics, that's interesting. Did you do gymnastics or you just coached it?
I did gymnastics, but 4-year-olds are doing handstands and front rolls, right? So they're just little mushes of chaos that you're mostly trying to get not kill themselves on a balance beam. Like that's really your job as anybody who's slightly taller than them. is to help them not die in process.
Yes, yes, yes. I've watched my daughter from the balcony, and I'm like, oh my God, it's scary.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It
So I
is.
had minimal skill, but I was really good at catching children in flight. So that was probably my primary qualification. And also I'm just a slightly bigger, I'm
Yes,
just
that
a
is.
slightly bigger child some days.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. So all of that, dealing with parents. I mean, is there any
Yeah.
story that stands out? Any particular parent hard conversation you had to have?
Sometimes, so the things that I remember about working with the kids and working with their parents was I had such empathy for kids that were perceived as difficult. And some of the kids that we worked with were challenging in their own right? Sometimes kids just throw tantrums and they're just chaotic. And I realized that I was looking back on it, I was just able to sort of come into that space with a kid and help them find calm again. And so it was less the conversations with parents and more just that some of the more difficult parents would just come and say thank you to me. And at 16, you kind of don't understand what that means. Right. But looking back on the situations, I just reflecting on, oh, that kid at recess versus that kid in my class, and just how different those kids showed up as, and how much more those parents were like, of course, our child is staying in Tumbly with Mel. Like, it was ridiculous to them that they would ever consider taking that kid out because there was just such a meeting the kid where they were and being able to work with them through that. And so that was probably the first time that I realized that even without communicating to someone, they can see the impact that you deliver. Which shows up later with like doing work and not expecting to be, have people say thank you, right? So not always a positive thing, but in this context, this idea of, parents having had a really rough time with getting people to like work with their kid, seeing it as, oh, here's somebody who's going out of their way to do that, and really recognizing and respecting that. And that was a very, very unique experience that young, particularly.
Yes, yes. I can honestly imagine that as a parent, if someone just takes a little bit of extra time and care, that must have gone a really long way. And funny enough, I also worked with kids when I was 14, and yeah, it was just so meaningful. I was the person, if one kid in particular, his parents never came to anything, like any of the school plays or any of the sports, and
Yeah.
I was there with him, sitting on the curb waiting for them to come and pick him up as the last kid, and off my heart with that little boy. Oh yeah, so I totally get that.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, his parents were not terrible parents; they were shift workers. So yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely,
so
absolutely. It's like there's a myriad of reasons why parents can't be there all the time and the rest of it, right? So it's just, being able to hold that space, right?
mhm.
Being somebody who can hold that space for a kid when they don't necessarily have somebody who can be present in that moment, I think is really
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh yeah, I love that. All right. So what happened next for you?
Next, I started my retail career. So college in my family had to be self-funded. And so my dad's prescription on this was, if you don't want to flip burgers, you need scholarships. That was the A's and B's according to my dad. So I had to get good grades, and then I had to come up with money to pay for school. And so that was my mission in life. I really sort of kicked at 16 and then just kept going. But ultimately, I started working in retail. And so my first retail job was working at Starbucks. So I was doing odds and ends kind of through high school. But when I graduated high school, I was really committed to going and working at Starbucks. These guys were great. I thought they had, a part-time job where you could get health benefits in the US is like insane, completely insane. And I was like, oh, two birds, one stone, right? I can work here, I can get health benefits, and I just have to wake up at 4 a.m. and be nice to people. How hard could it be?
Just 4 a.m. That's no
Famous
problem.
last words. I'll work opening shift. I'll go to school in the afternoon. It'll be great.
Amazing. Yes. Who needs sleep
100%,
when you have
100%.
Starbucks?
Oh, totally. You have coffee. And so, yeah, and this is before they were reimbursing for university or anything like that, right? But this was just like between hourly and tips, I will be fine. This will be great.
And how long did that last then?
I was there for 3 years.
Okay, so you did it. Okay, you did it.
Yeah,
With no sleep and coffee.
no sleep, coffee, and just eternal optimism. Just being able to greet hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people with a positive attitude, make them feel special, and send them on their way. That has served me my entire life. Like learning how to do that was a game changer for me because I was opening shift, right? I was opening shift. So it's like, literally you get there, you're up at 4, you're in the store at 4:45, you're talking to people from 5:30 on. And by the way, I was a university student. So like I was also like studying and doing stuff. And I would greet people, and early on my like energy would just sort of collapse, and I'd get really, really just like, hi, okay, great, it's coffee, whatever, right? Like, and my manager pulled me aside and said, this may be the 700th time you've greeted someone this morning, but this is the first time you're greeting James or whoever the client was, like whoever the customer was. He's like, this is the first time James is talking to you. And he doesn't care that you've greeted 699 other people. And I was like, mortified. I've been called out. And it completely shifted. And so my go-to greeting was good morning, sunshine. And I would take orders and I would smile and I was cheery, and I could do that on repeat because I just remind, this is the first time they've met you. Whatever they're cranky about, it's not you, right? So it was a way of me kind of reclaiming my own presence in that situation and being responsible for myself. Just like really going, this is your stuff. You gotta own it.
Yeah. That is such a good lesson. Like it sounds so simple, but yeah, I'm sure you were just like, oh, James, please. Like, 100%. What do you want? Of 699 other people, but that is so true, and I think just a life lesson in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wow. Okay, I love that. All right, so Starbucks 3 years. That's a lot, and you were customer facing the whole time. There must have been, I mean, besides greeting, 699 people in whatever, half an hour, there must have been some customers that really stood out, and for good reasons, bad reasons. Tell us a story.
Yeah, absolutely. So my favorite people were the would-be regulars. So you've got your regulars that are there every single day that get the exact same thing, and they love the recognition. So they're like the classic coffee shop people that we think of when we're like, oh, I have my coffee shop. We're not talking about those people. My favorite were the people who really wanted to be regulars, but for whatever reason were either inconsistent or couldn't keep to like the same order. Mm-hmm. So they were recognized, right? I would see them in line, but I never knew what they were going to get, or I hadn't seen them in a while and I'd forgotten. And what I loved about these people is because you knew that they really wanted to have their coffee shop and they really wanted it to be their thing. And they would get in line and they would apologize. I'm so sorry, I have to change my order today. And there was a gal that I would see. Oh man, if I thought about it hard enough, I could probably come up with her name. There was a gal that I would see literally 3 days a week. One of them was always a Sunday. She always came an hour after her husband. I have no idea. It's just I never asked why, however their schedules worked, but he was a regular and she was occasional, just 3 days a week. And I loved this customer because she was trying so hard to have this be her place. And she loved that we would try. She loved that we would try. And I remember just the look on her face when she finally decided that she was going to commit to one drink to make our lives easier. And she told me such. She said, Mel, I don't want to confuse you anymore. So I'm going to stick to a skinny cappuccino. And I was like, are you sure? And we had this like moment. And it's hilarious in the retelling.
To the skinny cappuccino.
100%. It's hilarious in the retelling, but it was the sweetest thing. It was the sweetest thing. She so wanted to be part of our community. And she so wanted to be known. And she loved that feeling of recognition. And so she said, I'm going to keep to skinny cappuccinos. And I said, big decisions here. Big decisions. The next time I saw her, I said, are we still? Are we staying? And she was like, yes. And her whole face lit up. And it's the sweetest memory in my head. I think I was like 20 at the time, right? And it's the sweetest memory in my head because it was just this priceless bubble of connection. Yeah. And it was and it's like when we can create those moments of just like connection or community, that is such a gorgeous thing. And that experience of having so many people who were regulars and obviously had that connection and enjoyed it, but helping somebody build that was just so much fun. Yeah. My coffee customers didn't tend to yell at me. That happened later when I worked in wireless, but my coffee people tended to be pretty chill.
Okay. Yes, it's hard to be angry when you're getting coffee. That is true.
You can, but there's always risk of decaf. And occasionally somebody would be snarky or see somebody snarky and they're like, did you decaf them? And it would be this whole moment of camaraderie.
Did you decaf them?
100%. 100%. And I will neither acknowledge nor deny. Like, I'm just going to stay neutral.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So lesson learned. Be nice to Starbucks people. They're going to decaf
just coffee, just baristas in life. Just baristas in life. Be nice to breakfast waitresses.
Oh, yes,
people who are in charge of coffee. Like, don't mess with these folks.
Yeah. They can mess with you. I love that. I'm definitely not a regular, and I change my order every time because I'm like, ooh, I love it. All right. So this took you all the way through college?
It took me to my junior year of college.
Okay.
And in junior year of college, I had the opportunity to go work at one of the big cell phone companies, Verizon Wireless. Mm-hmm. And they had just consolidated a lot of smaller companies across the state of California, which is where I grew up. And they were expanding. They were all very important. And they needed sales reps. And somebody said, Mel, you're a ridiculously cheery person. Come be a wireless sales rep. And I was like, okay, let's talk numbers. And it effectively gave me an opportunity to like 3x my income. And as a person who was paying for university and had her own flat, this was not a bad option. And I was like, oh man, I could get my own studio if I went and worked at Verizon. I don't need roommates anymore. This is like next level here. And so I went to work at Verizon Wireless, where you would think having a cheery disposition is helpful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the learning curve was incredibly steep in the days in which you were billed for everything. So everything from text messages to minutes to roaming outside of the state of California, you would be charged for. This is like cell phones before they had big screens, right? This is like before the, Motorola Razr like rocked the world. Mm-hmm. And my job as a sales associate, I had a quota. I had actually had numbers I had to hit. My schedule moved to afternoons, which is very weird. So I no longer had to be at work at 5 a.m. Crazy town. And my job was to be cheery, sell things, including accessories, to customers who came in and troubleshoot bills.
Oh, that does not sound like fun. Bill part.
It was a major shift from just slinging coffee. I will tell you that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is where you learned how to deal with customers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because customers, so anything that involves billing that is not transparent, right? So any like energy bills, cell phone bills, all of these things, you don't really know what's happening until the month has ended. Mm-hmm. And then you get a bill that shows up at your house, and cell phone bills still aren't very cheap, but they would get astronomical incredibly fast. Mm-hmm. And I remember on more than one occasion, a customer coming in and just losing their mind about the cost of the bill. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because of dealing with 5-year-olds with attitude problems. Maybe it's helping people get over themselves when they're ordering coffee. I have no idea. But I became the angry customer whisperer, which
That
is
is
a
a
very
skill.
strange claim to fame, that you would send out me to go deal with usually somebody 3 times as old as me, usually somebody who's crumpling their bill. They're so angry. And we would just have a chat about, help me understand what's wrong. Help me understand what you thought was going to happen. Where do we have a disconnect? What can we do? How do we fix it? And really helping the customer see themselves in partnership with me on how to fix this problem. And thankfully, they usually stopped yelling once they had somebody's full attention, which is great. So I don't have too many complete nightmare situations in my list of retail experiences. But the finding common ground, even though we can't always make people happy, I can't make a $3,000 bill disappear, right? But what do we do? How might we move forward? How do we adjust this and prevent this problem before? And this working with people on solving the actual problem was a skill I developed under pressure and sometimes under fire.
Yeah. Wow. A $3,000 bill. I would have
Insane.
been crying.
Insane. The kid goes to college, right? This one customer I'm thinking of, the kid goes to college, then goes with his buddies to down to Mexico for spring break, runs the bill through the roof. This is roaming charges, all this other stuff that we don't see nearly as much anymore. I'm sure we still do, but just a completely unpredictable situation. And then, the parent is just, what do I do? Because obviously screaming at the kid only gets you so far. And so helping them work through that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I mean, you had a lot of experience. You're now 20 something. I mean, this is insane. All right. So from all of this stuff,
Yeah.
take us through your career, I don't know, can we call it your grown-up career, I guess? I don't know. After college, I still haven't found the correct term to use, but take us through from those early days. How did it set you up to have, that career to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So the retail experience obviously gives me a ton of empathy for customers. My ultimate goal coming out of college was to go to grad school. So I went and completed a master's degree in history at the University of Colorado. By the way, I went back to slinging coffee in order to support my master's degree. And then they let me teach, which they gave me a room full of 19-year-olds to teach like early world history to, which is kind of hysterical. Once again, very customer facing. But those experiences ultimately led me down the path of wanting to move into training. And what I liked about training was helping people understand things from a different problem and then be able to see things from a different angle and then being able to go, oh, I know how to solve this and move forward. Right. So how do I understand what I need to get done? And then how do I move towards that? And I started after grad school, I went back to Verizon Wireless actually, and I was a manager. And so I was training people up in operations and escalations and all the stuff that I knew a lot about. And in that, it was a lot of problem solving. So sort of an empowerment. And when I wanted to pivot out of retail and, have weekends off for the first time in my adult life, I interviewed for a training role and was able to sort of get myself into a corporate training job where they saw my experience working with the public as a benefit. And so that was like the first career pivot was I'm going to go put myself, I don't know, at like the age of 28 or something into a corporate role and like have big girl clothes and like show up at an office type vibes. But all of that customer facing work that I had done really translated nicely into working with people and teaching them how to do stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly think that's one of the biggest skills to learn. I wish I had done more of it, but all of this dealing with people, just every single moment is building that muscle memory. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm sure that's never, never, never going to be something you regret or something that doesn't help you. Like
It's
it's
true.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah.
It also
All
gives
right.
me a sense of humor.
Yes, which is great. All right. So now you in corporate, you're wearing proper clothes.
I know.
And that's
I
so
know.
funny because that's all I wanted to do when I was a kid. My aunt went to a building, that was her job. She was an assistant or something like
Yeah.
that, but she got to wear awesome shoes. And I was like, I want to work in an office to wear
Oh my,
those shoes. And now I
oh,
cannot imagine anything worse than wearing those shoes. But
100%.
I did it for a while.
100%. We all did our time running for the train in heels. I was really excited to no longer have to wear a name tag.
You
So
did
I
have
was,
to?
no, because I no longer, when I went corporate, I no longer had to wear a name tag.
Of
And I
course.
had
Yes,
spent
yes,
years with my
yes.
name on my shirt. And
Yeah.
so just the fact, and you would walk out and people randomly on the street would be like, oh, Melissa, blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, who are you? What do you want? Like, very not cool.
I
And
don't
so
have
I was
coffee on me.
I no longer smelled like coffee. I didn't have
Mhm.
to wear weird accessories. Like at Verizon, you always had to wear accessories. Like if you think about like TGI Fridays and their flair requirement, it was similar. We had to wear accessories. And then I always had to wear a name badge. And so not having to wear a name badge was like the thing I was most excited about.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's amazing. No name tag and cool clothes. All right.
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
And then you were in the training space. So, why did you choose that specifically?
So the training space struck me as a way to reuse my prior experience. It struck me as so the thing I wanted to do, the actual sort of mojo that I was trying to channel was to get a day job, like just have a regular, you're welcome, grown up schedule
Mhm.
where I didn't have to work on holidays. I didn't have to, give up my weekends to go do whatever. I really, really wanted to have all my friends. All my friends were grown-ups, and I was the one still working retail. There was this whole chalk track that we could psychoanalyze ad nauseum, but I had this idea of having a regular schedule. And so when I looked at my skill set, I said, well, what kinds of things can I do with 8 years in retail management, working with people, doing all this stuff? And I realized that the thing I had done consistently in managing teams was training them
Mm.
and creating my own trainings, coming up with, well, what are the problems we're seeing? Let's resolve those. And I would deliver trainings as part of our like team meetings and stuff. So
Mhm.
if there was something that was just a snafu, I would come up with a training for it. Be like, this is how, and it could be anything from like, do you see the line that says signature on contracts? Please have customers sign that, just anything. And it was, how do I remind people to do stuff, get them to take the right action and actually move our numbers forward? And so that was my, like, I bet you I could reuse this. I bet you somebody would pay me
Mm.
to do this for like a day job.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
I used that as my transition point
Yes.
into actually my first two training jobs. My first one only lasted 3 weeks.
Oh,
But then my second one lasted for 4 years. Okay, so
okay.
like I redeemed myself quickly.
All right. We all have those 3-week problems.
Soirees into a company. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got fired from doing street charity.
Were you asking people for money?
Yes, I was
Okay.
asking people for money to support the homeless, and my brother was doing it to support trees. We weren't really good at it. My
No.
brother's like, save the trees. He was way better than I was. I was like, support the homeless, and I did not sign up one person. So they're like, you can go.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, that was
You're
my
like, not
3-week
a thing.
thing. Terrible. All right. So
Um,
now you in your corporate jobs, you did this training for 4 years, and now you're into coaching people on career transitions, right? So tell us that middle part that got you from training people in a corporate environment to what you do today. What's that squiggly path look like?
How'd you, you're like, what is that decade like? So
yeah, we had the tens.
So I'd been training people with the company I worked with was in the travel industry. And so I'd been training people on technology tools for travel booking. And it was a lot of fun. I ultimately ran the team. And so I had like a team of 3 under me, which was, it just felt very fancy. Like it just felt very fancy. I led that portion of the organization, which just gets a hair toss. And then I made the decision to move back to the West Coast. So I'd been in Washington, D.C. I'd been there for 6 years and I was ready to move back to the West Coast. And I was like, well, who's hiring in like, I don't know, San Francisco or Seattle? Like, your Seattle's really cool. What's going on there? And so I ran a list of companies. One of them happened to be Microsoft. I'm sure that Amazon was on there. I'm sure that Gap was on there. Like, I just had a list of companies and I was like, oh, this is who's hiring in this area. Let me go see what they're up to. Mm-hmm. And so I started cold applying for different jobs where I could do training. I was like, I've been a trainer for 4 years. Let's just keep that ball rolling. And I ultimately went out to Seattle to do an interview, one with AAA and one with Microsoft. And my favorite part I spent the next decade in tech, right? So like now I understand just how hilarious it is that I cold applied. I didn't even send in a cover letter. I cold applied and they were like, sure, come talk to us in person. And they needed somebody who had retail experience, like customer facing experience, to join the team because they were launching a new version of Office and they needed to train up retail sales associates in like Best Buys and other stuff. And they needed somebody who knew what that was like to sell things to humans. And I was like, oh, I'm good. I got that. I got that.
Pick me.
And so the funny part is there was so much of my like conditioning in corporate to kind of reject my retail career, right? To like hang my hat on like my corporate identity and just kind of go, oh yes, of course, I've always been like this, as though that matters. But what's so funny is the fact that I could talk to customers and understood what they were like and understood how they made sales, like purchase decisions and that kind of stuff was something that actually got me into Microsoft. And that's crazy to me. So I started out in training at Microsoft. I got recruited by Amazon because they were launching a confidential project 18 months into my Microsoft career. And I said, oh, what's the harm? Let me go check that out. Let me go see what those Amazon folks are like. You know, if I don't like it, I can always come back to Microsoft. And that confidential project was Fire Phone. It's the only smartphone Amazon ever launched.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It did not go well.
You'd never even heard of it.
Yeah. It's a time capsule. It's such a time capsule. But I started there working in training, and then over time wound up moving into marketing, and that's how I actually wound up in London. So I took an internal transfer. I took over a role to lead product marketing for tablets in Europe, which was wicked cool. And like, talk about how the hell did you end up here? And I enjoyed that for a couple of years. And then I got bored and I decided to switch roles. And in that moment of switching to that last role, I realized I was burnt out and crispy. And I felt like I needed to upgrade my toolkit on career navigation. And it's actually that process of figuring out my own career path that led me to deciding to leave corporate and actually help people make career transitions themselves. And that reinvention, that pivot, that how do I tell my story? How do I pull out what skills matter? All of that skill came forward. And I was like, oh, people would probably benefit from this knowledge. And so that's actually, getting crispy myself and really kind of digging into that skill set is really what ultimately led me to be a career coach, which is what I do now.
Yeah. Okay. Let's pause there for a second because I want to get into the detail of that, because you say you were crispy. I like that, but there's a lot going on there. So to brush over that is because I've been there a couple of years ago. It was hard. It was I would judge myself every day. The level of confidence is at 0. So talk to the people watching this or listening to this that might be feeling that and just literally not seeing how, like, the light at the end of the tunnel. So what did you do? Like, what were the steps? How did you walk through that?
Absolutely. So the thing that sometimes if you haven't worked in big tech, sometimes we don't realize the culture around job change in there. And so at Amazon, the culture around job change was like every 18 months, people would pick their heads up and rotate. And so it was just part of how the culture operated, I think still operates in a lot of ways. So this idea that it's normal to get tired of your role and want to change it is like built into the frameworks, is built into how people do stuff. So as a person who ran device launches, right? A device launch is basically a year. And so you get to the end of that and you're like, oh, well, do I want to do another round? So there was lots of conversation around the other round part. And so people would talk about, oh, well, you're burnt out, but it's okay. You'll recover. You'll recover in between launches. And there's a normalization of that feeling that you're exhausted. And so it's a bit like asking the fish what the water is like, right? You're like, you can't see it. And so for me, what I realized, I think there was one year in which I had 3 launches basically back to back. So it was like two launches within 60 days of each other, and then a third launch like 4 months later. And so there was no recovery loop, but I felt like I was reliving the same day over and over and over again. I was dealing with the same problems. I was answering the same questions. I was fighting the same fires. I was writing the same docs. And I was like, there has to be more than this. This cannot be normal. Like, this cannot be normal. And I just remember, and like my eternal optimism, which, somehow survived this, was just, I stopped being able to find the silver lining because I didn't feel like I was learning anything new. And there wasn't anything cool for me to get excited about in this sort of nonstop litany of doing the same thing. And I was good at my job. My VP walked into one of my launch rooms and sat down for half an hour with us. And there was nothing was on fire. Everything was just like totally calm. And he looked at me and he goes, "This is the most boring launch room I've ever been in." And I was like, I thought that's why you paid me. I thought you paid me to run boring launches, right? Like, I thought that was why I had this job. And it was the funniest moment in one way. And just like, yeah, we're not doing anything I haven't done before, right? It was just such an acknowledgement of that feeling of Groundhog Day. And so I realized I was doing a lot of drinking to cope, a lot of boredom, and a lot of just trying to not feel ground to dust, because there was no sense of achievement in what I was doing, regardless of the big numbers, regardless of, the millions of things we were selling. I was like, yeah, this is just like not a thing that I can care about anymore. And so that's what I mean by a little crispy.
Not finding joy. And you don't need to find joy every day, but you need to find joy at least once a week. There needs to be something sparking you, something, lighting you up, lighting your soul on fire. So I relate to that. And then, so in terms of your next step, so you realize this, and then is that when you left corporate and became a coach?
No, I decided to do one more. I did a pit stop because I thought I could fix it.
Okay. Got it.
So the thing that I will say every time, so because the culture at Amazon was like to move around every 18 months kind of vibes, I was used to asking the question of, well, what do I want to learn next? And so the existing framing I had was this idea of, well, what do I want to learn next? What is uniquely Amazonian I can go double down on, right? So what can I only learn here was the other part.
Okay.
And so this was the transition that moved me from training into marketing. Was this is like one of the largest retailers on the planet. I should go learn marketing here. That's how I ended up as a marketer. When I wanted to, move again, it was, oh, well, I've been part of go-to-market, but now I could go lead go-to-market. Wouldn't it be cool to say I led go-to-market, right? And so I had this mental framing of, well, what could I go double down on that I already know I like? What could I learn that's uniquely, just something you're not going to learn anywhere else but Amazon? And so the thing I said to myself was, oh man, I should really go learn a subscription business, because there's a lot of them across the company. I've never worked on one. I've never worked on like a digital only product. I've always worked in, this other stuff. And so I said, well, the Prime team is hiring. How about I go learn about driving engagement and subscription? Because where else am I going to get the opportunity to go learn about a subscription product like this? And so I decided, using that framework, I decided that I would go over to the Prime team and join and do product marketing stuff for them. So how do we talk to our customers? What kinds of things do we surface to them to get them to engage, to renew their subscriptions, all this fun stuff, right? How do we grow that base was my job. Mm-hmm. So that was my official soiree into the toolkit I had, and here's how I might expand it to kind of learn this next cool thing.
Okay. That's very cool. I like that. We definitely have to pull that out as a valuable lesson, is looking at it as, what can I learn from this experience? So, it might not be something that I'm loving right now, but where can I learn? Where can I grow? Yeah, that is amazing. Okay. So, and now you run your own company. You're a coach. Tell us about that. And then I do want to ask you, because you are a transition coach, and and we mentioned this a little bit, but many people are in a transition and they didn't plan to be. They don't want to be. They got laid off, or they're finding themselves burnt out, or there's no joy in what they do, all of that stuff. So they want to be in this transition. So question is twofold. What do you do now? How do you work with your clients? And for the listeners, in that place where they didn't choose a transition, what would you say to them?
Absolutely. So can I answer the second one first?
Yeah. We can leave the first one. Because the second one is very important. I find so many people in that spot right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And throughout my career, there's been transitions that I didn't sign up for. There's a reorg that happens. You have to sort of take it on the chin and go figure out what you're going to make of it. So what I would say to people who find themselves in transitions they're not excited about, whether their team experienced layoffs or whether they themselves have sort of found themselves on the wrong end of a layoff, I think it's such a important moment to take a beat, to literally just take a breath. And one of the things that I see a lot in myself and other people I've sort of watched go through this while I was in corporate and since then as a coach, is there's this I have to move quickly now, right? Like I have to get going now. So my 3-week stint in my first training job, I will tell you that I probably applied to 100 jobs in 4 days. Because I got laid off, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I see that so often with people, and I understand completely why. But the thing is that we have this moment of being able to take a step and think about what we want to have happen next. And so often people don't see it as an opportunity to take a step back. They see it as like I have to take action now. And when I talk to my clients about this, when I talk to other people who've been laid off, it's always with this, like, I understand the urgency, but if we don't have direction, we're very unlikely to end up somewhere we want to be. Mm-hmm. And so just giving ourselves a little bit of room and asking the question, how else do I want to use my toolkit, right? I have these skills. I like this part of the job. I like this thing that I was working on. I really enjoyed, this aspect of my role. I hated this crap, but I really enjoyed these things. I want less of that. I want more of this. And putting together a short list of that and saying, okay, now how do I go find that? How do I make that the priority? And sometimes the list is, oh, well, I want to shift the focus. I've moved too far down the line away from customers, and I want to come a little bit farther up the food chain in terms of when we're making decisions. Or I want to shift that I'm working on existing customers and not prospects. Or I want to work more with X kind of user, not Y kind of user. Whatever it is, there is something tremendously grounding and empowering about making a decision about what happens next. And it's from that place when we're excited about something that we can talk about it. Because everything about landing the next job is how you tell your story and how you tell people who you are, right? We call it personal brand, but it's, hey, here's the examples that tell you that I know how to do this thing. And so much of what I work with on clients is we need clarity. We need to know what lights you up, and then we need to know what direction you want to take it, because it's those two things that actually open doors.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I cannot love that more, honestly. I was the same. Got laid off, applied for a million jobs. I was like, I need someone to write my resume, paid them, all the thing, and I just went. And luckily it didn't happen for me for a long time. And I just kept speaking with people. And it was through these conversations that unlocked where I am now. And thank goodness, because I love it. I just love where I am, the business that I'm building, all of that stuff. And it never would have happened if I just went and had that, just took that first job that came, and I was like, this makes me sad. So that's excellent advice. Take a beat, and honestly, it can be a couple days. It doesn't need to be, months of lounging, watching Netflix. It can literally be 3 days. It doesn't. I love that. Okay, question, and then we're going to need to wrap up. So, what are we not speaking about enough when it comes to building this career, this life? Right in the beginning, you said you help people align their work and their life so that, they feel like one person. And what are we not speaking enough about when it comes to actually achieving that?
Yeah. I think the thing that we don't talk enough about is that you don't have two brains. You don't have a work brain and a home brain. They're only one. And as long as we treat work as separate from home, we are never going to find alignment. So the thing that I talk to my clients a lot about is like, what do you want your life to look like? And how does work support that? Couldn't just support it financially. That is totally okay. But if we want to have some sense of purpose and connection in our careers, we have to have the perspective of we are one person who is bringing certain skills from our life to our work, and that our work is going to have an impact on the rest of our life. And so if we perceive them as part of the same whole, then we start to make different decisions about what's important. And so you can absolutely drive hard and have an awesome career in tech. That's totally wonderful. But how does that balance with who you want to be outside of work? And does that make you feel like you're still the same person? Or do you feel like you're flipping an on-off switch? If you feel like you're flipping an on-off switch, chances are we're not aligned with either what we're driving or the kind of company that we're at. And so it's gaining some perspective on, well, who do I want to be? And then how do I do that in this way? Because the example I will give is, I'm a communicator, shockingly, and my ability to talk to customers, to talk to clients, to talk to corporate employees, like all of it, that hasn't changed in my whole life, right? I've gotten better over time, but this is a thing that has gone all the time. How I use that skill shows up differently as a coach or as a marketer or as a trainer, but it's the same thing. And so there are things that we enjoy doing that we don't really think about, that come naturally to us. They don't really think about as being additive to who we are at work. And they're so fundamental to us telling our story and talking about the impact we deliver. And so it's this being able to say, this is the stuff that lights me up. Connecting with customers, feeling like I'm driving impact, feeling like I'm able to tell a story that people find compelling is something that lights me up. Well, I can do that in a million different ways. And I'm not gonna like, I tell stories at home, I tell stories at work, right? Like that doesn't change, right? So it's this idea of like, who are you and how do we give that room in the place that you're going to go, earn your paycheck so you can feed your family.
Oh, yeah. So good. So good. All right. We have to wrap up. Unfortunately, I feel sad about that because I can speak with you for a lot longer, but let's go to the final question of, if you have to travel back in time to young you, what would you thank yourself for doing then that set you up for where you are now?
I would go back to post grad school, like grad school Melissa, and I would thank her for deciding to take a cross country road trip solo. So we've talked about all the work that I've done. We've talked about all the customers and all the rest of it but I realized that going to grad school was like a big bet on myself, right? Like being like, I'm going to pay for school and I'm going to go to grad school and I'm going to do this. But just like, how crazy is it that I decided to get in my car and go drive around for three months with like the old like paper maps? And I like stayed in hotels by myself. And like, I just am like, holy crap, lady. Like, how nuts is that? But just this expectation that I'll figure it out. I don't necessarily need a plan. I'll be okay. And this just willingness to go for it. And that was like the first, there was little examples before then, but this is like, holy crap. And I just look back on my career and there was just such a big bet mentality. Of course, I'm going to go work in tech. Of course, I'm going to go move to London. Of course, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to start my own company. But just this, like looking back, I'm so grateful for her for taking that shot and going, yeah, let's do that shit.
Oh, there are so many micro lessons in that I picked up. Like, just betting on yourself, knowing you'll figure it out, the resilience, the belief, the adventure, all of the thing, like saying yes to you or something you wanted to do and saying, let's do it. Like, I love it. Oh, and there's just so much I want to say, actually. So now my brain is going crazy because I'm like, that little decision to do it is what so many people don't do. They wait. Let's wait until I feel ready, or until I have all the money, or until there's someone in my life that I could do it with, and all of that stuff. And it's just like, no, go do it. You can do it. And it's life-changing. I'm sure those 3 months were life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's so funny is that probably one of the reasons I was like, well, I have to do it now because I have to start working again. I'm sure there was a part of my brain that was like, this is your moment, right? This is your
now
moment,
or
right?
never.
It's now or never, right? Like, who knows what story I was telling myself, but it's this idea of if you have this moment, go for it, because I now know, like now I would say, well, you know what happens if you don't do it, right? Like, you'll never have that experience. If you start and it sucks, fine.
Yeah, that's also okay. That's okay.
That's also okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's okay
absolutely.
for some things to suck. It's okay.
Yeah, for real. The worst thing that happens is you drive home sooner.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's been so awesome talking with you. Tell all the people who should contact you. Why should they contact you?
Absolutely. So the people, so my people tend to be big tech leaders, mid-career, folks that have been, working in a way that they are really proud of, but are now ready to shift out of, are really now ready to kind of go like, let's go figure out what alignment looks like, and move in that direction with some intention. Like those are my peeps, right? Some intentional career pivoters are my peeps. And I'm super passionate about the space. I love talking career change. I love talking reinvention. So the people who should come find me on LinkedIn and connect and all that would be the folks that are wanting to be in a conversation around that, because I love being in community with people who are making big things happen, and I love being in conversation with people who are thinking about that kind of stuff and want to do that kind of change.
Amazing. We will have all the links, of course, in the description. And yeah, it's just been so awesome. I'm sure we are going to chat soon again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.